Welcome, 8th graders. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Look, we're going to be looking at reading and writing in a completely new way. We're diving into this really fascinating concept called literary devices. Now, right off the bat, I don't want you to think of these as just, big, boring academic words you have to memorize. Think of them more like a master craftsman's tools. Just like a builder uses a hammer and a saw to construct this magnificent house, a great author uses literary devices to build an absolutely magnificent story. To really anchor what we're talking about today, I want us to look at this piece of wisdom from Scripture. It's Colossians 4:6, and it says, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Think about what salt actually does to your food. It doesn't just sit there, right? It brings out the flavor. It makes the meal memorable and impactful. Well, today, we're learning how to skillfully season our own words with grace and intelligence, and we're going to uncover exactly how great authors do that exact same thing in the books we read. So here is our game plan for today. We'll start by opening up the author's toolkit. Then we'll cover imagery, which is painting with words, symbolism for uncovering hidden depths, and foreshadowing to build suspense. After that, it's your turn for some active reading, and we'll wrap up by talking about the godly learner. Let's get into it. Okay, jumping right into Section 1, the author's toolkit.
Now, you might be wondering, why do we even need these tools in the first place? Why can't authors just state exactly what happens, like a dry police report? Well, it's because stories are meant to be experienced. A literary device is basically an author's specific tool for making a story jump off the page and come alive. And here is why this is a total game changer for you. When you start to understand these devices, you literally transform as a reader. You go from being passive, just letting the words wash over you, to being an active reader. You start seeing the gears turning underneath the plot. Plus, this is a high-level skill, guys. It's going to help you crush advanced reading assessments, jump into really rich academic discussions, and eventually write with some incredible precision yourself.
Let's pull the very first tool out of our bag. This is Section 2, Imagery, Painting with Words. Imagine for a second grabbing a paintbrush, but instead of dipping it in blue or red paint, you're dipping it in vivid, descriptive words. That's imagery. It's language that appeals directly to your five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, to make the setting and the characters feel incredibly real. It's how an author creates a physical sensation right inside your mind. So instead of just telling you the room was scary, they'll describe the freezing draft on the back of your neck and the distinct smell of damp, rotting wood. You feel it, right? This perfectly illustrates the point. Look at this famous example from the classic book, The Secret Garden. The author doesn't just lazily say, "The flowers bloomed in spring." No, she calls it a gold mist of blossoms. I mean, wow. Just close your eyes and think about that phrase for a second. A gold mist of blossoms. It makes us almost physically feel the glowing, beautiful reality of spring. You can practically see the yellow pollen hanging in the warm air. That right there is the pure power of imagery. So I want to challenge you to think critically here. How can imagery influence the mood of a story? And remember, the mood is the emotional atmosphere. It's how the story makes you feel as the reader. Let's say an author describes a sunny beach, warm sand, the sweet smell of coconut oil. You feel relaxed, right? Pretty peaceful. But what if they describe that exact same beach, but this time they focus on jagged gray rocks, violently crashing waves, and the rotting smell of dead fish? Your emotional response flips completely. Those sensory details are actively controlling your emotions. Moving right along, let's check out Section 3, Symbolism, Uncovering Hidden Depths. If imagery is all about the physical senses, symbolism is about looking beneath the surface. It's the use of symbols, which could be objects, colors, or even the weather, to represent deep layers of meaning that go way beyond what they are on the surface. Honestly, as simple as like a secret clue the author leaves behind just for you. It points toward a much bigger, more profound idea buried in the text. To show you what I mean, let's talk about the famous novel, The Great Gatsby. In this book, there is a literal green light shining at the end of a boat dock. Now, on a surface level, it's just a light bulb with green glass, nothing special. But as an active reader, you'll realize it stands for something massive. That green light actually represents the main character's ultimate hopes. It represents his dreams for the future, desires that are always just slightly out of his reach. When you start recognizing symbols like this, it unlocks the whole hidden theme of the book. Now let's look at a tool that authors use to keep you totally on the edge of your seat. Section 4, Foreshadowing, Building Suspense. Foreshadowing is when an author drops subtle little hints early on in a story to prepare you emotionally for what's coming later.
It is a master trick for building tension and subconsciously prepping our hearts for the big climax. It's kind of like, well, it's like hearing the distant rumble of thunder in Chapter 1, which lets you know a massive, dangerous storm is absolutely going to hit by Chapter 10.
Here's a really powerful example of this from the novel of Mice and Men. Early in the book, the character George constantly gives these repeated warnings to his friend Lenny about staying out of trouble. He even tells him exactly where to hide if things go bad. Now, these aren't just random, passing conversations. They act like a ticking emotional countdown. They are constantly hinting to us that a tragic ending is pretty much unavoidable.
So, here's a question for you. Why might an author actually choose to use foreshadowing? I mean, wouldn't you just want the plot to be a complete, shocking surprise? Think about that. While surprises are definitely fun, if a wild ending comes completely out of nowhere with zero clues, it usually feels kind of cheap or even confusing. Foreshadowing makes the ending feel earned. It makes you slap your forehead and say, oh man, I should have seen that coming. It builds this incredible anticipation that makes the story literally impossible to put down. All right, 8th graders, we've gone through our toolkit. Now we arrive at Section 5. Your turn. Active reading. It's time for you to take these brand new tools into your own hands. You're going to step up to the workbench and practice your own craftsmanship for this assignment. Here's your checklist. First, I want you to identify one clear example of imagery from a story you've read. Second, explain how a symbol in a text adds depth to its theme. Third, describe a moment of foreshadowing in a novel and what it actually predicted. Fourth, in your own words, explain why an author might choose to use foreshadowing. And finally, explain how imagery can influence the mood of a story. Take your time with these. I really want you to be thoughtful and show off those active reading skills. Before we wrap up today, I want to transition to something that is absolutely crucial. Section 6, the godly learner. I want you to listen to this really profound truth from Romans 8:6-7. It says, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." True peace, guys, comes from keeping our minds spiritually focused. As we fill our heads with all these complex ideas, literary devices, and great pieces of literature, we have to ensure that our ultimate focus always remains fixed on the life and peace that comes directly from the Lord. And this brings us right to the heart of the HeroesMart Academy philosophy. See, education and knowledge are incredibly powerful tools, just like the literary devices we learned about today. But knowledge on its own? It really just makes you capable. Honestly, education without a moral compass can actually end up hurting people. But when you combine your education with biblical morality, that is when you are truly equipped to make wise, God-honoring choices. Your intelligence should help you navigate the world righteously, not just successfully. So I'm going to leave you with this final, challenging question to think about while you do your assignment. How will you use your knowledge today to honor God? I really encourage you to go after academic excellence with everything you've got. Learn these tools, master them, read deeply. But as you do it, keep your mind firmly centered on God, on truth, on wisdom, and on making righteous choices. Thank you so much for joining me today, 8th graders. Have fun with that active reading, and I will see you next time.